that was today? Oh, I feel simply awful. Must have slipped my mind.
Scar's iconic scar wasn't from a snake bite or a buffalo attack. It was the price he paid for saving Mufasa's life. What if the villain we thought we knew was once a hero? In the new movie Mufasa, we see a side of Scar we've never seen before. He was once called Taka and faced a heart-wrenching choice: save Mufasa or let him die. Taka's decision that day changed everything. His scar became a constant reminder of his sacrifice and the brother he could never be. But how did this act of heroism set him on a path that would change the Pride Lands forever? We thought we knew all about Scar and Mufasa's story, but what if there's more to it? Let's go back to when Scar wasn't Scar yet, but a young cub named Taka living in the Pride Lands with his father Obasi. Taka had everything he needed, but he felt a big empty space in his heart. He'd watch other cubs playing together and wonder what it'd be like to have a brother of his own. One day, while exploring the grasslands near Pride Rock, Taka heard a tiny scared mew. He followed the sound and found a small golden cub all alone and shaking. This was Mufasa, but Taka didn't know that yet. All he knew was this little cub needed help. Taka's heart filled with excitement. Could this be his chance for a friend? Maybe even a brother? He gently picked up the cub and carried him back to Pride Rock, but when Taka showed the cub to his father, things didn't go as he hoped. Obasi looked at the strange cub with suspicion. "We can't keep him. He's not one of us." Taka's heart sank as his dreams of fun and adventures together started to fade. But then he had an idea. He remembered how his father always said only the strongest and fastest lions could join their pride. So Taka suggested a race. If the new cub could win, he could stay. Obasi agreed, thinking there was no way this little outsider could beat his son. The next day, all the lions gathered to watch. Taka and the golden cub crouched at the starting line. But Taka had a secret plan. As soon as the race began, he pretended to stumble, letting the other cub take the lead. Taka made it look like he was trying his hardest, but always stayed just a step behind. When they crossed the finish line, the golden cub had won, and the pride erupted in cheers. Obasi was surprised, but he kept his word. The new cub could stay, and that's how Mufasa became part of the family. But here's the thing, Mufasa wasn't really Taka's brother. They weren't related by blood at all. This changes everything we thought about Scar and Mufasa's relationship, doesn't it? Imagine how this affected Taka as they grew up. At first, he was so happy to have a brother, even if it wasn't real. But what if he started to feel jealous as time went on? What if Taka began to regret bringing Mufasa to the pride? He might have thought, I saved him, I let him win the race, but now everyone loves him more than me. This could explain so much about why Scar became the way he did. It wasn't just simple jealousy over who would be king, it was a deeper, more complicated feeling. Taka might have felt like he created his own worst enemy, like he was responsible for bringing in someone who would eventually overshadow him. But there's more to this story, because soon Taka and Mufasa would face a challenge that would change everything. As they grew older, their bond was tested in ways they never expected. They had to learn to work together, to trust each other, even though they weren't real brothers. This is where their true relationship was forged, in the fires of adversity and shared experiences. What if the biggest test of Taka and Mufasa's bond was just around the corner? As the two young lions grew up together in the pride, learning to hunt and navigate the complexities of lion life, they had no idea that a single terrifying event was about to change everything they thought they knew about themselves and each other. It all happened on what seemed like an ordinary day in the Pride Lands. The Pride was out hunting, their golden bodies blending seamlessly with the sun-drenched savanna grass. Taka and Mufasa were there too, still learning the ropes of bringing down prey and working as a team. But suddenly, without warning, two massive white lions appeared out of nowhere, their pale coats standing out starkly against the golden landscape. The attack was swift and brutal. The white lions tore into the Pride with a ferocity that caught everyone off guard. In the chaos, Taka found himself separated from the others, watching in horror as his mother Exile and Mufasa were cornered by one of the attackers. Taka froze, his body as still as a stone statue in the midst of a raging storm. But Mufasa's roar echoed across the savannah as he bounded into action. Without hesitation, the young lion leaped between Exile and the attacking white lion. The fight was intense, a blur of claws and teeth and raw primal power. But Mufasa, driven by a courage that seemed to come from the very depths of his being, fought with everything he had. In a moment that would be etched into the memory of every lion who witnessed it, Mufasa did the unthinkable. He killed one of the white lions. It wasn't an act of malice or aggression, but one of pure protection. Mufasa had become a hero, a defender of the pride in its darkest hour. As the dust settled and the remaining white lion retreated, Taka was left to confront confront a truth he never wanted to face. When it mattered most, when his family needed him, he had been too afraid to act. The shame of it burned inside him, hotter and more painful than any physical wound. And as he watched the pride gather around Mufasa, praising his bravery and strength, a new emotion began to take root in Taka's heart: resentment. Why had he been so afraid when Mufasa had been so brave? Why couldn't he have been the one to save the day? But the story doesn't end there. The white lion that Mufasa killed wasn't just any lion. He was the son of Kiros, the fierce and unforgiving leader of the outsiders. And Kiros wasn't about to let the death of his son go unpunished. A new threat was looming on the horizon, one that would test not just Taka and Mufasa, but the entire Pride. As night fell over the Pride Lands, Taka found himself unable to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the attack playing out again and again. He saw his own fear, his own failure, and he saw Mufasa, brave and strong, doing what he couldn't. The contrast between them had never been so stark, and Taka felt the weight of it pressing down on him, threatening to crush him. But what if this moment, as painful as it was, wasn't the end of Taka's story? What if it was just the beginning? Because sometimes it's our darkest moments that shape us the most. Sometimes it's the times when we fail that push us to become something more, or something worse. As Taka lay there in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the nighttime savannah, he made a silent vow to himself. He would never be weak again. He would never let fear control him. But in making that vow and trying to bury his shame and fear, was Taka setting himself on a path that would lead him away from his family, away from everything he loved? As dawn broke over the Pride Lands, Mufasa's keen senses picked up on something that would change their lives forever. He turned to Abasi, his adoptive father, and said, "I can smell more outsiders coming to attack." The young lion's words sent a chill through the Pride. They were still recovering from the last attack, and now another threat was lurking just beyond their borders. Obasi's face grew serious as he processed this information. He knew the Pride wasn't strong enough to face another assault, especially not so soon after the last one. The old lion's heart ached as he realized what he had to do. Could he really send his sons away from everything they've ever known? As the Pride anxiously waited, Obasi pulled Taka and Mufasa aside. His voice was heavy with emotion as he explained his decision. "My sons, you must leave the Pride Lands. It's not safe here anymore." The brothers exchanged shocked glances. Leave their home? But what about their family, their friends, everything they've ever known? Obasi continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "You must go find a new place to start a kingdom of your own. It's the only way to ensure your safety." The gravity of the situation began to sink in. This wasn't a temporary solution. This was a permanent goodbye. The truth behind the attacks was even more chilling than they could have imagined. The outsiders were led by a lion named Kiros, and his motivation was pure revenge. Remember when Mufasa killed that white lion to protect Taka's mother? That lion was Kiros' son, and now the grieving father was out for blood. As the first rays of the sunlight began to stretch across the savannah, Taka and Mufasa said their goodbyes. Tears were shed, nuzzles were exchanged, and promises to return someday were made. But deep down, they all knew that this might be the last time they ever saw each other. With heavy hearts, the two brothers set off into the unknown. They had no idea where they were going or what dangers lay ahead. All they knew was that they had each other and the lessons their pride had taught them. As they ran away from the only home they'd ever known, Taka and Mufasa were completely unaware that Kiros and his outsiders were actively searching for them. But Taka and Mufasa's journey wasn't just about escaping danger. It was setting the stage for even greater conflicts to come. Obasi's decision to send them away might have seemed like the safest option, but it was actually planting the seeds for Taka's eventual betrayal. Taka had already been struggling with feelings of inadequacy compared to his adoptive brother. Now he was being forced to leave his home because of something Mufasa had done, even though it was to protect them both. Could this be the moment that started to drive a wedge between the brothers? As Taka and Mufasa ventured further from the Pride Lands, the world around them grew stranger and more dangerous. They encountered new animals, faced unfamiliar challenges, and had to rely on each other more than ever before. But with each passing day, the weight of their past and the uncertainty of their future pressed down on them. Would they ever find a place to call home again? As Taka and Mufasa journeyed towards Melee, the place Mufasa's mother had told them about, they had no idea their lives were about to change forever. What if I told you that the most important moment in their relationship wasn't a battle or a betrayal, but a chance encounter with a lioness? As they approached Melee, they had no clue that someone named Sarabi was about to turn their world upside down. Now picture this, Taka and Mufasa, two brothers who've been through thick and thin, suddenly meet Sarabi. She's not just any lioness. Sarabi is strong and confident, with a presence that commands attention. But here's where things get interesting. Sarabi's arrival might reveal hidden truths about the brothers. At first, everything seems fine. Taka is totally into Sarabi and tries to get her attention. He's doing his best to impress her, showing off his hunting skills and telling her jokes. And get this, Mufasa is actually helping him out. Can you believe it? Mufasa is giving Taka advice on what to say to Sarabi, like the best big brother ever. It's like they're a team, working together to win over this amazing lioness. But then something unexpected happens. Sarabi looks at Mufasa and sees something different, something special that sets him apart from other lions. It's like she can see right through him and notices these strange abilities that no one else has ever picked up on before. Suddenly, the whole dynamic changes. Taka, who was feeling pretty good about his chances with Sarabi, now feels left out. It's like he's invisible, and all Sarabi can see is Mufasa. Can you imagine how that must feel? To have this lioness you're trying so hard to impress suddenly only have eyes for your brother? The situation gets really complicated. Sarabi's interest in Mufasa isn't just about attraction. She sees something in him that could change everything. Maybe she recognizes that Mufasa has a destiny, that he's meant for something greater than either of them realized. And Taka, who's always felt a bit overshadowed by his brother, now feels like he's completely in the dark. This is where jealousy starts to creep in. Taka's not just upset about losing Sarabi's attention, he's feeling left out of something bigger. It's like Mufasa and Sarabi are part of this secret club that he can't join. And the worst part, Mufasa isn't even trying to make Taka feel this way. He's just being himself, but somehow that's enough to make Taka feel small. Now think about how this changes everything between Taka and Mufasa. They've always been close, always had each other's backs, but now there's this wedge between them. Sarabi's arrival has shown Taka that no matter how hard he tries, there's something about Mufasa that he can't compete with. It's not just about who's stronger or braver anymore. It's about this intangible quality that Sarabi sees in Mufasa, something that makes him special. But here's the really sad part. Taka's jealousy is about to lead him down a dark path. This could be the moment where he starts to turn into the Scar we know from The Lion King. It's not just about losing a girl or feeling less important. It's about feeling like no matter what he does, he'll never measure up to his brother. Imagine Taka watching Mufasa and Sarabi together, seeing how they connect, how they seem to understand each other in a way that he can't. It's like every moment they spend together is a reminder of what Taka doesn't have. And the more he sees it, the more it eats away at him. He starts to wonder if maybe there's something wrong with him, if maybe he's just not good enough. As Taka, Mufasa, and Sarabi got closer to melee, something dark was brewing in Taka's mind. He couldn't stop thinking about how Sarabi seemed to be drawn to Mufasa. Every time he saw them together, laughing and sharing moments, it felt like a thorn in his heart. What if he could make Sarabi see him differently? That's when Taka started doing something that would change everything. As they walked, he began leaving little marks on trees and rocks. These marks were actually secret signs for the outsiders to follow. Taka was leading their enemies right to them. He thought if Mufasa wasn't around anymore, Sarabi would finally notice him. These marks were like scars on his soul, each one representing a step deeper into betrayal. As they finally reached melee, everyone was feeling relieved and excited. They thought they were safe at last, but then, out of nowhere, the outsiders appeared. The leader of the outsiders, Kiros, looked right at Taka and revealed that he had been the one leading them there all along. Can you imagine how shocked everyone was? Mufasa couldn't believe his ears. His own brother, the one he trusted and loved, had betrayed them all. Kiros wasn't just any old enemy, he had a personal grudge against Mufasa. Remember how Mufasa killed that white lion to protect Taka's mom? Well, that lion was Kiros' son. So now Kiros was out for revenge, and Taka had handed Mufasa to him on a silver platter. All of a sudden, chaos erupted. The outsiders started attacking, and the animals of melee jumped in to defend themselves. It was like a huge storm of teeth and claws and roars. Lions were fighting lions, other animals were running around in panic, and in the middle of it all were Taka, Mufasa, and Sarabi. Taka stood there, watching the mayhem he had caused. He saw Mufasa fighting bravely, protecting Sarabi and the others, and that's when it hit him. What had he done? This wasn't just about winning Sarabi's heart anymore. This was about life and death, about betraying the trust of the brother who had always been there for him. As the battle raged on, Taka found himself faced with a choice that would define the rest of his life. On one side, there was Kiros and the outsiders, ready to welcome him as the one who helped them get their revenge. On the other side was Mufasa, fighting for his life, still unaware of just how deep Taka's betrayal went. What would Taka do? Would he join the outsiders and fully embrace the darkness he had started? Or would he try to make things right and help Mufasa? It was like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that whichever way he stepped would change everything forever. And you know what's really sad? All of this happened because Taka couldn't see his own worth. He was so focused on being like Mufasa, on winning Sarabi's attention, that he lost sight of who he really was. He forgot about all the good things about himself, all the times he and Mufasa had been there for each other. Wow guys, you won't believe what happens next in the Mufasa movie. Remember how we thought Taka was turning into the bad guy? Well, hold on to your manes because everything's about to change. The battle in Melee is in full swing and Kyros is charging at Mufasa, ready to end it all. But wait, what if Taka suddenly realizes he's made a terrible mistake? In that split second, he has to choose between his jealousy and his brother. All their shared adventures and even the times he felt left out flash through his mind. And then, Taka decides to be the hero. Guys, I'm not kidding. This is huge. Taka actually jumps in front of Mufasa to save him. The sound of claws clashing fills the air as Taka takes the hit meant for his brother. Can you believe it? After all that jealousy and betrayal, Taka risks his own life for Mufasa. But here's where it gets even crazier. Kyros' attack leaves Taka with a deep cut across his eye. That's right, this is the moment Taka gets his famous scar. Mufasa is totally shocked by Taka's sudden change of heart. One minute Taka's leading the outsiders to melee, and the next he's taking a hit for Mufasa. It's like everything we thought we knew about Scar is being turned upside down. The battle rages on, and guess what? The animals of melee actually win, but poor Taka is left with this permanent reminder of his choice. But what does this mean for Taka's future? And what about his relationship with Mufasa? Sure, he saved Mufasa's life, but there's still all that stuff that happened before. Can Mufasa forgive him? Can Taka forgive himself? And what about Sarabi? How's she gonna react when she finds out what Taka did? Will she see him differently now? The biggest question is what happens to Taka after this? We know he becomes Scar eventually, right? So how does he go from this heroic moment to being the villain we all know from The Lion King? What if saving Mufasa wasn't enough to change his path? That scar becomes a constant reminder of everything he lost and everything he could have been. It's telling two stories at once. The story of how Taka saved his brother and the story of all the mistakes that led him to that moment. And let's not forget about Kyros. He came for revenge, but now he's lost again. What if he doesn't give up? What if he keeps coming after Mufasa and Taka? Could this be the start of the conflict that leads to Scar's eventual takeover of Pride Rock? It's crazy to think about how one moment can change everything. Taka went from being the jealous brother to a hero in the blink of an eye. But now he's got this scar that'll remind him of that choice every single day. So we thought we knew Scar's story, but what if there's more to it? The filmmakers wanted to show us that Scar, or Taka as he was once called, wasn't always the bad guy. They wanted us to see how his choices led him down a dark path. Taka saved Mufasa's life, but got a permanent reminder of his mistakes. Every time he looked in the mirror, he saw the brother he saved and the life he could have had. This heroic act might have been the start of Scar's tragic fall. His internal struggle with guilt and jealousy transformed him into the villain we know. What if Scar's scar symbolizes sacrifice and regret? Is the real villain of The Lion King the weight of Taka's own choices? Scar's story shows how even good intentions can lead to tragic outcomes.